Syndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
Listen to me right now. I'm just going to get this out of the way. When the Tigers added Brenan Hanifee, I knew, Shep, at that moment, a guy with an illustrious pitching background like his, you add him to a pitching staff that is already lighting it up. That was like the final piece. If Dave Dombrowski would have only added Brenan Hanifee in 2013, Shep, we probably would have won the World Series.
In the words of my friend Sean Baligian, you want to fight? You're going to disagree with me? You want to fight? It's amazing, isn't it? Every button that's pushed has been working. And it's not like it's a series. It's not like it's a weekend. It's not like it's a week or a homestand. It's for over a month. All the same buttons that he is pushing with his pitching staff, his pinch hitting. I was laughing last night. Zach McKinstry gets up late as a pinch hitter. And I looked at my wife. I said, you know he's going to get a hit, right? And she said, why do you say? I said, he's a pinch hitter. Everything's working. And what does he do? Goes the other way. Base hit. You know, I would say with this team, there's so many storylines. We could go on and on and on. And we've talked about a lot of them. I feel like we use the word grit with the Lions, don't we?
Yep.
Dan Campbell's got the hat. People got the sweatshirt. People got the T-shirt. Grit, whether it be black, blue, silver, whatever, white. The grit that this team has shown is indicative of the state and the city specifically. But I love the grit that Parker Meadows and Spencer Torkelson have shown.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, when those guys go down, right, that's a humbling experience, Sean. It is. I mean, you and I have been humbled in our careers. I'm sure everybody has. When you're at the highest level and you're in the opening day lineup and you're considered a big piece of the future and you fail, because they did at the beginning of the year, they go down to the minor leagues. Did they pout? Did they whine? Did they cry? Did they call their agent and say, hey, you know what? Get me the hell out of here. They're not going anywhere. I don't want to be part of this. I want someone who's going to give me a legitimate chance. Did they do any of that stuff? No.
Nope.
They worked. You know what they did? They worked their ass off and they got back. I mean, it should be celebrated. It's the stuff that you and I have always talked about as a big one of the characteristics we look for. All right. We don't look for the characteristics of that kid, Bear Alexander at USC, who gets benched and now wants to leave USC.
Mm-hmm.
We look for these types of characteristics. And I hope more people have taken notice of that. They may not be lighting the world on fire. They may not be all-stars, but they've showed a lot of grit and a lot of toughness in helping this team get to where it is. I think it's cool.
Well, I'm convinced, whether it be Hinch or Fed or whatever the case may be, witchcraft is happening with the pitching staff, and I'm just going to accept that. Sorcery, witchcraft, magic, fairy dust. Tom in London, good morning to you.
Voodoo,
voodoo, all of it. Black magic. I don't care. All of it. It's all involved. There's some kind of sorcery. The pitching is third in ERA, Shep. They're second in WHIP. And honest to God, I am not trying to be condescending when I say this, okay? And I know people are going to take it the wrong way. There is Tarik Skubal and who else?
Right.
It's insane.
It is.
Every one of these guys on a daily basis are going out. We'll get to the batting in just a second because that's a whole different category of witchcraft and sorcery and all that. Like Shep, every one of these guys who, like I joked about it, who's Brenan Hanifee? Like, go look him up. There's nothing there. These guys come in, Montero. These guys come in and like when given the opportunity on a nightly basis, Shep, somebody else is just getting the job done. And Bo Brisky does it every day, as we know. Somebody asked me last night, Shep, like my buddy Gordy asked me last night, is there anything that you can compare this to? And while the Tigers have a long way to go from doing what this team did, I know you're a hockey guy as well. What the Kings did in 2011 and 2012 defies logic. They were awful. They were terrible. They were near the bottom of the league for most of the season. The last month of the year, they got red hot. They snuck into the playoffs as an 8 seed, and then they smoked everybody in the playoff. That's
crazy.
the only thing I can come up with where what? Like Jonathan Quick fell, and all of a sudden, like he was Patrick Waugh or prime Dominic Hasek or something. It was insane. And this run that they've been on now for a little while, Shep, when you do it this long, it's not a fluke. There's something magic going on.
Agreed 100%. You brought up the numbers. Look, since August 11th, they're number 1 in all of baseball in ERA. That tells you something. You know, Tarik Skubal gets a lot of ink, and rightfully so, because he's going to win the Triple Crown. He's going to win the Cy Young. He should anyway, unless it's Emmanuel Class A. But I think a guy like Tarik Skubal deserves to win it. He's a 9th-round draft pick. And everybody's like, wow, can't believe they got him out of the 9th round. Tyler Holton's a 9th-round draft pick of Arizona. Tyler Holton's pitched, 65 games for this team? He's 7-2. He gets righties and lefties out. He's got a 2.2 ERA. I mean, you talk about Brisky being an everyday guy. Tyler Holton's an everyday guy, right? As a starter sometimes, a spot starter, as a middle reliever, as an end of the bullpen guy. It's been amazing on how AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter have handled the situation.
Yep.
Right? 1 1/3, you're done. Wait a minute. I've only thrown 24 pitches. Doesn't matter. I know I want this guy against that guy, and then he can get the final 2 outs of the inning like last night, so I can bring another guy in, Will Vest, to be fresh for the next inning. Give him an inning, and then I'm going to finish it up with Jackson Joe. They're thinking so many innings ahead, and there's that old cliche, certain coaches play chess, others are playing checkers. It's kind of the situation right now, I think.
St. Louis Blues a few years ago, Tom brings up, who can forget that? My gosh, the Berube year where he came in and everything happened. You know what? I want to talk to a guy like you because, Shep, you've had to endure this in your career quite a bit, especially the position that you were in. Oh, my goodness, he's a homer. Oh, hear him talking up AJ Hinch. Oh, my gosh, I don't see it. Anybody have any questions over AJ Hinch and the way he manages right now? Speak up.
They can question all they want. That's fair, I suppose, but it's not going to sway my opinion. I've seen the man work. I have a relationship with him that's pretty good, and I really respect his communication skills. Do I agree with every move? No, but you know what? That your favorite coach, whoever it may be, fill it in, Scotty Bowman, whatever. You don't agree with every move they make. That's okay. You didn't agree with every move you made from your parents. You didn't agree with every move your wife made in certain situations. So what? It's bound to happen. Look at the body of work. That's all I ask you. All right. This team should not be, from statistics wise, should not be necessarily a team that is threatening in the American League. And they are a threat in the American League. Don't kid yourself. I'm not going to say they're a favorite, but they are a threat in the American League.
Accept it.
No question.
No doubt about it. Accept it. No. You know what? You just brought up something funny, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I remember in 2013, that Michigan State team that only lost 1 game. And I had a mini meltdown when they lost to Notre Dame. Everybody goes back to the calls. I just thought that there were some decisions that Mark D'Antonio made in that game that were quizzical, including inserting Andrew Maxwell. And it was funny. Somebody that we both know, and I bet you can guess who it is. Please don't say that person's name. Literally said to me, well, I thought you love Mark D'Antonio. Like, you're all in. And I'm like, wait, are you 7? That's 7-year-old logic. I can love Mark D'Antonio and think he's unbelievable. And that was before he even hit the pinnacle of his success. Right. And yet at the same time go, wow, I didn't agree with that move at all. I think that actually hurt the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're trying to tell me that the only people you can, or if you're going to like somebody, you got to agree with 100% of the things that say. Absolutely not.
Yes.
I like you a lot. I don't agree with you on everything, and you don't agree with me, and you shouldn't.
Right.
For crying out loud. I mean, let's be real here. Okay. Nobody is perfect, and we're far from it. AJ Hinch is not a perfect manager, but he's done an incredible job, so much so that outside of Stephen Vogt, you'd have to agree that AJ Hinch is probably the manager of the year in the American League.
Oh, I don't think there's any debate. I don't, I honestly, hell, Shep, I know we talked about that a few weeks ago. I don't know. I don't know how anybody could argue that right now. I'll tell you what, I have some pretty stubborn friends, as I'm sure you do. And a couple of my buddies, without mentioning names, have been hammering AJ Hinch for a couple years. And the logic that they use is, I keep hearing what a great manager he is, but I want to see it. Because I always used to say about Brad Ausmus, I don't know if you recall, I'd go, please tell me what the Brad Ausmus difference is. Is he great in the room? Is he a great strategist? Where's his feel? Somebody explain to me why he's Mensa, and maybe I could better understand it, because you couldn't see it. So a lot of my buddies, honestly, have been using that same kind of logic. And I said, well, you have to remember what he's dealing with. The roster's a little bit different than that roster that Brad Ausmus was dealing with. I have respect for my friends, because now they're saying the exact same thing. They're saying, okay, I get it now. And it's amazing how that works itself out, Shep. And I'm not trying to kiss your behind, but in all honesty, I've heard you say it for years. Like, this guy is a phenomenal manager, and we're seeing it up close and personal at the most important time.
Man, question. Do you think Jim Leland's a really good manager?
All right. I'm glad that you brought that. I thought Jim Leland's.
I'm serious. Do you think he's a really good?
Shep, nobody worked the room. Nobody worked the room like Jim Leland. Those guys loved him. Right. You know it. Jim Leland's in-game decisions made me pull hair out of my head, just on a personal level. I just made me pull hair out of my head.
But yeah, sure, I get it. But the bottom line is, he won over 1,700 games. Mm-hmm. He won a championship. He did it in multiple places. He's a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. So the answer to that is yes. He also had 10 losing seasons. Okay? You need talent, right? It's easy to say, wow, that guy's great, Phil Jackson. Look at who he has. Although it's difficult, I think, too, to manage great talent as well, especially in the NBA. AJ Hinch with a minor league third baseman. I'm not saying Jace Young is now, but he was called up, okay? A minor league third baseman. A hole at shortstop from your highest paid player. So you bring up a minor league shortstop. Last year, the kid at second base has been in the minor leagues. Your first baseman struggled at the beginning of the year and came back, right? Your left fielder's been solid. Your center fielder struggled at the beginning of the year and came back. Your right fielder missed a number of games, 50 plus, because of a back issue. And his replacement is seen as a journeyman. You got two catchers. One is viewed defensively, not much offense. And the other was a minor leaguer at the beginning of the year. And you've got one legitimate starter, with all due respect to the others, because Reese Olson was hurt. Casey Mize was hurt. Kiter Montero, most Tiger fans never heard of before. Ty Madden comes up. Look at what they do. He puts these guys in a place to win. And Andy Ibanez comes through. And Zach McKinstry comes through. And Justin Henry Malloy comes through, who was in the minors to start the year. Think about that for a moment. He's not penciling in Judge and Soto and LeMahieu and Verdugo every day. He doesn't have Castellanos and Harper and Trey Turner and JT Realmuto every day.
Right.
It's a hell of a challenge. He's embraced it, and this is the way they're winning. He's been an unbelievable manager this year. It's probably the best job he's ever done. And it's not just because they're in playoff contention. It's because of the youth that he's had to work with and the situation that he's put him in. Torkelson back, he bets him at the bottom of the lineup. Sometimes he's at the top, sometimes he's at the bottom. Parker Meadows, sometimes at the top, sometimes at the bottom. It's brilliant.
More on that in a second. Because Shep, at least with the pitching staff, I don't get it with the names. I don't get it with the Brenan Hanifees of the world that come in here. I mean, it makes no sense. It really does. Prime Kansas City Royals shit. Pardon my language. It is. Remember the Royals had that run, and I mean that pitching staff from top to bottom, in particular their bullpen. Every one of those guys came in and cast a spell on you, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing right now with a bunch of nobodies. It's insane to me. The batting lineup is where the real witchcraft is, as far as I'm concerned. 'Cause none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. And I want to explore that with you in a second. Let's talk about our buddies at the Wealth Advantage Group first. If you're ready to take charge of your financial future, go with the Handsome Brothers right there. Look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville and owned by those two guys. Who are they? That's Mike Husak on the left, Jeff Husak on the right. They have over 20 years of industry experience, and that they understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. And that's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, maybe you're already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 different states. Look, the investment world is a complex one. So if you're ready to start taking charge of your finances and taking them a little bit more seriously, it's time to work with the experts. Reach out to the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574. That's 248-773-8574. Check out their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Shep, there are currently right now, today, the MLB average, just a little homework, Google is your friend. The MLB average OPS is 712. There are 4 Tiger players currently above that mark right now. Carpenter at 931, who's what a godsend. My gosh, I don't think enough is being said about him. Riley Green at 836, Parker Meadows at 739, Matt Vierling at 716.
Who's been underrated. I mean, Vierling's been really underrated.
100%. I'm like, my goodness, they're 23rd in home runs. They're 18 in runs.
Yeah.
And yet, my goodness gracious, when an opportunity presents itself, it's somebody different almost on a nightly basis coming up big.
I think they're like, Sean, I think the key number is 5. I don't, this may not be exact, but I think they're like 53-10 when they score 5 runs or more. Which just shake your head. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. Really impressed with how they've been able to manufacture runs, go the other way with hits. Like I said before, matchups. I think the key for this team earlier this year, when people said, "Oh my God, it's Javier Baez, get him out." This team, I mean, the players like Javier Baez. You know, I mean, he's a likable dude, and I think he is well respected within the clubhouse. I think the key, and they had to get him out. I'm glad about that too, even though, you know, the injury, wink, wink, you don't want anyone to get hurt. But I think the key was getting Kerry Carpenter back.
100%.
Yep. What he does, and you notice there's always the urge. I would have this urge. I'm sure you would too. If a guy's doing well, he's on a major role. What are you going to do? I got to keep him in there, right?
Right.
AJ Hinch doesn't do that. Lefty on lefty, sorry, Kerry, you're out. So-and-so is in. Whomever. Andy Ibanez, for example. He plays. It's not always analytics. It's matchups with a certain pitcher, and he thinks ahead. I was in his office numerous times. He's got a huge whiteboard, okay? So picture going into his office. His desk is on your left. You got a couple of chairs here, and there's this huge whiteboard, all right? And he's got the lineup down. And everyone is either a left or a right next to it. And then he's got the opposing team's pitchers. And he's already planning ahead. I know Sean Baligian's going to bring in this guy at this moment. And I want to have my lineup in an area that allows me the advantage. So if they bring in a righty, that I may have, you know, a righty who's already in there, but I'm going to have lefties behind him. That gives me the matchup that is most desirable to me. Or I might have a lefty and then an everyday righty guy and then 2 more lefties. Where are you going to get a breather?
Right.
He matches things up so well and anticipates so well and communicates to his team. Talks to his players on a regular basis and is frank and honest with them. I mean, that's the kind of guy you need running things. Very steady. And I know it's boring, Sean. I get it. It's boring. Oh, come on. Give me a break, man. Oh, just win today. Roll your eyes. Doesn't look too far ahead. And that's why this team hasn't done it either.
You know what? Hey, Shep, it may sound boring when you're struggling. Right now, it's fascinating. I mean, it's mahogany producing wood. I mean, honestly, it is, and I think that's the way a lot of people feel right now. Alan said, "I've heard Yankee fans say the team that they don't want to face in the playoffs is the Tigers." Imagine hearing that a month or two ago. This is real, Alan. That was my moment in 2006. I remember being there that beautiful Saturday afternoon. The Tigers got up 8-0 on the Yankees, and Shep, I say it all the time. It's the fifth inning, and all these Yankee fans mass exodus out of Comerica Park. And I remember just looking around going, is this real? Is this? I have a buddy of mine who called me from Chicago. He knew I was at the game. He goes, I can't believe I'm watching this. He goes, every year there is spontaneous celebration all around the nation when somebody knocks out the Yankees. We were in that era. And he said, it's us this year. Like somebody's sitting in a bar in Tampa right now going, yeah, Tigers and all that, and that's kind of the surreal. Alan, you're right. That's kind of the surreal thing. Now it's a long way from beating them or anybody else in the playoff yet. Make no mistake about it. But here we are having these conversations, and I never imagined in a gazillion years. Never.
Nor I. And I think every team is respectful of what the Tigers have done. I get why the fan base probably feels that, but I doubt the team feels that. I think you got to be really careful in getting too cocky. I don't think the team will, but as a fan base, just because the Tigers have knocked them off in the past doesn't mean that it's automatic. Because
100%.
Guess what? That team wasn't facing Aaron Judge or Juan Soto, right? Or Garrett Cole or whomever, right? I don't. Look, the Yankees have won, 90 plus games or whatever it is for a reason. Okay. They've been pretty steady all year long. Aaron Boone, I know people don't like him in New York, and he's on the hot seat if they don't get to the World Series. I think he's a pretty damn good manager. They were freaking out in New York when they were 5 games back of Baltimore earlier this year. If you remember, Aaron Boone was getting a little chippy at the microphone in the post-game press conference. And now they've got a comfortable lead on the Orioles, and they're going to win the division.
Right.
So I think you got to be careful. And look, that's looking way down the road, Sean. What I ask people is, would you rather see Baltimore? Because that's what you would get if you're the number 2 seed. Or would you rather see Houston? That's who you would get if you were the number 3 seed. I think that's a legitimate question. Both teams are playing pretty well. Grayson Rodriguez is done for the year for Baltimore. And Houston is a team that, they just got smoked by Seattle. They've lost back-to-back games against the Mariners. But they won a 4-straight division in the AL West, and no team has done that since the Oakland A's of 1971 through 1975. Hi, Bert Campaneris, you jackass. So what are you going to do?
Throw that bat. You know what? Astros have been there, done that. That terrifies me. I'm not going to lie. And along the lines of what you're thinking, Shep, I caution people. This whole linear thinking stuff blows my mind. Like, stop it. It's like,
what do you mean by that? What do you mean?
Well, because the Tigers did this, that means this is going to happen in the playoffs, or this is what the next few years are going to look like. Because I got you. I go back to 2006. Listen, front row and center. We had season tickets. Mm-hmm. Okay, it sucks we came up short, but the Central Division is going to be easy. Don't worry about that. Well, the Cleveland Indians at the time had other designs on that and pulled away from everybody from August on. And it's not that easy. I
agree with you. I agree 100%. Ask the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yep.
Because the Toronto Blue Jays had that young core, right? They had Bichette, they had Biggio, Guerrero Jr., Springer, right? They thought, we're taking off, baby. Okay. This is going to be our division for a long time. Has that happened? No, it has not.
The Chicago White Sox. Shep, I thought 4 years ago, well, this sucks. The White Sox are going to own this division for a decade.
Me too.
I really did. I did.
Yeah, right.
And then they went and hired Jim Fregosi as the manager. And
I did.
Wasn't it Fregosi? Was it? Or was it Whiting Herzog they brought in? Who did they bring in?
I would Tony La Russa waking up out of the crypt. But I did say this. I remember telling this to AJ Hinch, who wouldn't bite. He just smiled at me. He and I had a private moment a couple of years ago on the bench. I said, I'm going to tell you something, man. If you were managing that team, the Chicago White Sox, they'd win the division. There's no doubt in my mind. He and I had a very frank conversation about how they played. He said, you let up on the gas at the wrong time of the year, and it can carry over. And he said, bad habits can be created out of winning too. Suddenly you think you got things in the bag. Well, that's one of the many things I respect about him. He's not going to let this team get complacent. They may not win, okay, because they may not have enough talent. They may have, Tarik Skubal may have a bad day against the Astros or the Orioles or whatever. But the one thing this team's going to do, they're not cutting corners, and they will not fall back into, oh, we've got this done.
Right.
There's going to be always a push to win every batter matchup, every inning, every game. They're not always going to do it, but that's the mindset that they've always had. There's no panic there, Sean. You notice even when they were, 10 games back, the interviews with A.J. Hinch, he wasn't panicking.
No.
Frustrated, yes, just like you and I would be. There's no panic there.
Yeah. No, it's, bringing in Dick Hauser. I mean, Tony La Russa. It really goes to show you how
Whitey Herzog?
Yeah, it really does. It goes to show you how important a manager is. I mean, and Abreu wanted out. All of a sudden, so many of those can't miss prospects. We know a little something about that. Missed or couldn't stay healthy. But honestly, count me in the camp of my son was living in Chicago. I said, Jack, get used to it. The White Sox are going to be here for the next decade. And Shep, it lasted a year and a half. I mean, it's
that's because
when you think about it.
You have guys who, they didn't work.
Yeah.
I was in Chicago last year talking to members of the media and asking them, what the hell happened? What's wrong? You had Eloy Jimenez. You had Luis Robert. You had Tim Anderson. You had Andrew Vaughn. You had Jose Abreu. You had Yasmani Grandal. You had Yohan Moncada. You got the same 7 guys in the flipping lineup every single night. And they're supposed to be really good. They don't work. Certain guys did. But certain guys did not. They got their paycheck, they got their big contract, and they thought, put it on cruise control, baby. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Our buddy, Mr. Positive, Shep Baby, Shawnee B, Mr. Positive, Detroit Radio TV. Thank you. Austin, I think I've identified what makes sense about this team. It's not much. A lot of these guys have been inconsistent. Have somehow become timely, at least, and all these young guys, both in the pen and at the plate, appear to be competing against each other almost as if they're competing for who gets the bigger contract. Maybe it's just playing for the guys next year. Either way, I give Hinch a lot of credit for pulling the right levers at the right time. Boy, you said that, didn't you?
Yeah.
I still can't believe I might be watching the Tigers in the playoffs next week. If the Tigers can go on this run, MSU can give OSU a game Saturday. Man, from your mouth to the good Lord's ears, please. Kerry is a solid player. Mr. Positive, Shep, spot on. Kerry, Parker, Riley. Guys, who in the clubhouse is the leader? Shep, is there a leader in that group that you recall?
I think it's player-led, which is something that A.J. Hinch and his staff have always wanted. I think Matt Vierling has a voice, which is great because he's been there, done that. Riley Green has been more vocal, and earlier this year, in spring training, it was Spencer Torkelson. I think I can't say that there's just one, and I think that's a good thing.
Who made Sean wear a clean shirt? Feels like this must be AI. Listen, Drew, you upon further inspection, there is no cleanliness in this shirt. Okay, you're giving me way too much credit.
Drew, let me just say this. You've only seen like the top quarter of the shirt. That doesn't mean there isn't any type of coney sauce in the middle of the shirt, or maybe some type of barbecue sauce on the back sleeve of the shirt.
Listen, I crap you not. I wish I could turn the camera around. Right before we went on, I just worked on 3 half racks of Duroc ribs. So, yes, you probably have some rib rub someplace on this. I think nothing works better with a pink shirt than when you add in a little bit of that brown rib rub. It's a perfect fit. Hey, let me talk about Legacy for a second. Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you, and yes, help save you money at the same time. That's what these guys do. They're just fantastic guys as well. Trust me, chances are if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. So what are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today, just like we did, 586-209-4106. That's 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. And I'm telling you guys right now, Joe, Dave, and Alex, the whole gang over there, big sports fans, you'll probably get stuck, I say that kindly, in a great sports conversation as well.
That's good.
Alan,
Yeah, I like that.
Scandals aside, people forget that A.J. Hinch is a World Series winning manager. The man knows how to manage a playoff game. Absolutely, positively.
Yeah, and somebody brought up, the matchup. They think they match up with Baltimore a little bit better. That's probably because they won 4 out of 6 against Baltimore. Remember, they lost 4 out of 6 to Houston. So I'm a little careful with that. Now, I think Baltimore's got a really good lineup, Sean. It really does. It scares the hell out of me. Anthony Santander is an underrated right fielder. Cedric Mullins, I still think, knows how to play. I really like him. Colton Cowser's a good young player. Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rushman. You can go on and on and on. They've got some really good. They're a deep lineup, and Houston is the same way. Now, you brought up their pedigree, and for good reason. Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, these Yordan Alvarez, they're not, Jeremy Pena, they're not getting intimidated by you and me at Comerica Park. With all due respect. I don't care how many times you're going to wave the white towel. They're not getting intimidated. But Detroit getting a team like that whose pitching has been affected. There's no question their pitching has been affected. Like, we get somebody who says, "Oh, what about Verlander against Skubal? How great would that be?" Now, I suppose it would be great, but what Houston wants is they want guys like Framber Valdez against him. They want Hunter Brown. They want Ronel Blanco. Those are the guys for Houston. Not as much Justin Verlander.
No. That's you know what, Shep, again, I caution people, as fun as this is, as fantastic as this is, you have to remember there's also a chance, I'm not being realistic, that the Tigers don't even play a home game at Comerica Park. I mean, that's the reality of it,
Sure.
I mean, that it would be wonderful. I would love it. I'm telling you, some of the best memories I've had with my son were during those playoff games. I mean, one of the forgotten ones to me, Shep, or forgotten ones, as it were, was Delman Young's home run against the Yankees in the 8th inning. I mean, there are just so many little magical moments. We all remember the big ones. And I hope that so many people get to experience that, because, I mean, Shep, it's insane when you think about it. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years since they've been in the playoffs and had a game at Comerica Park. So,
especially young people, right?
Soon.
Especially young people. I mean, you and I experienced 84.
Yep.
We know so many people who they don't know what that's like. The playoff thing is one thing, but a chance to go deep, and Tigers fans feel it. That team, there's a different way this team plays. I mean, you can just tell. You always bring up Bo Brisky, which is great, but 2 nights ago, Sean, he threw 23 pitches. 20 of them were for strikes.
I say it with respect. I'm not joking. Like the guy, how does he do it every night? Every gosh damn night. It's insane.
Even the guys like Jackson Jobe made his major league debut. What an awesome feeling, right?
Yeah.
Perfect timing for A.J. Hinch to bring him in. Non-stressful situation, up 7-1, full ballpark. He feels that whole thing, right? He threw 9 pitches, Sean. He got 7 strikes.
Yeah.
What the pitching staff and what the coaching staff and everybody has said, basically, if you want to be on this team, you better throw strikes.
Yeah.
And if you want to get in the lineup as a batter, look at what Wenzel Perez did the other night. 11 pitch walk, 9 pitch walk, or 6 pitch walk, 9 pitch, 2-run double. Look how many pitches he saw in 4 at bats. He saw like 30 plus pitches in 4 at bats. So that's really good stuff. And that's a big reason why they're doing so well.
Jackson Jobe gave me Andrew Miller vibes. Remember, they brought Andrew Miller up late in the 06 season, and, he was can't miss. And obviously, he turned into a very effective reliever. Let's give him credit. He didn't become what I think people thought he would, but he was unbelievable. Quite frankly, I'm not sure he gets enough credit, reliever and everything. Yeah. Skydog said, remember, guys, there were a lot of people that were foaming at the mouth when the Lions missed the playoffs a year after they went 3-13-1. It was kind of funny. And I get it, Shep. People want to put the cart in front of the horse. I mean, these people that thought that it was going to happen as quickly as the next season with the Lions, I thought it was a little crazy, but when you think about it, they missed by that much as well, too. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it. But you're right. The people that thought playoffs to begin with, that's not a Lion problem. That was a problem with your own expectations. So I agree 100%. With this guy, dog. That's 100%. You were a victim. You were a victim of your own expectations.
Yeah, it's all about expectations, isn't it? Like my expectation for this team, I made it very public. I made it at the end of last year, and I made it before the season began. I expected this Tigers team to win the division. Period. Mm-hmm. They're not going to do that. That doesn't mean that you can't change some expectations and make the playoffs and go deep and so on and so forth. I saw this team having it, but I didn't have that same feeling. But when it was August 10th, something happened, something switched. A number of things did. We've already talked about that at length, and for good reason. It's been amazing how their body language is different now. And how they go about their business. Like there is an expectation for you to battle in the box, an expectation for you to come in and throw strikes. Those are really good things to have. It's okay to have high expectations. Right. The players have them too.
Yep. Eric, what's up? Chiming in from work. Will the Yankees clinch the AL East? Yes. The magic number's 1 with 4 to go? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kiss her goodbye. Bill, do you worry about, or do we worry about the White Sox trying to play spoiler? This will be the Sox World Series. The skeptical fan in me is pooping his pants. And yes, I said pooping as an adult in a sentence. The skeptical fan in me is, I'll say it one more time for effect, pooping my pants. The adult in me sits back and says, no, that team mailed it in a month and a half ago. I will have my depends on the ready just in case anyway. I'm just telling you right now.
Yeah, I am not.
I did it again.
I am not worried one bit. Yeah. It's not. First of all, let me just say this. I don't think they're going to have to be in a situation where they have to sweep. So that's good.
Yep.
I think Garrett Crochet is expected to pitch game 1. And then you get a guy by the name of Sean Burke, and we don't know who the Tigers are going. This is a team they've lost 120 games. They have 3 walk-off wins this year. Mm-hmm. 3. Mm-hmm. All delivered by Andrew Benintendi, by the way. It took them 98 games before they got their first win of the year when trailing after 7 innings. It's like the 4th longest in the history of baseball.
Incredible.
All right. Teams that we've never heard of, perhaps, at least number 1, we've never heard of, like the Pittsburgh Bisons or something like that. I think that team, I don't think that team can wait to get the hell out of the 2024 baseball season. I think Detroit wins at least 2, and I do believe, but when all is said and done, that would be enough. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if they finish the sweep today against Tampa. I'm not worried about Chicago one damn bit. I'm not worried about this team missing out on the playoffs one damn bit. I think they are headed there. It's just a question of or not if they're going to be the 2 or the 3 seed and see what Kansas City does.
Tom, maybe the way the Tigers are playing, we might not be a year away from being a year away. I had a meltdown in the summer. I openly admit it. Shep, I probably talked to you about it. I was so tired of a year away from being a year away. Like after the trade deadline and people talking about, wait till this guy's here in 25 and 26 in particular. And that's when we've been kicking the can down the road for so many times. And all of a sudden the can's right there at our feet. It's like, I think a lot of us are like, how do I react? Because, I mean, whether we want to admit it or not, this franchise, I think in particular the previous regime, was so good at kicking the can down the road. Hell, the whole Detroit roots thing was based and premised on, oh, don't worry, we're growing all these prospects and we're watering them in the sun and all that stuff. And it was selling you on 2-3 years from now.
But they couldn't.
Here we are.
Yeah, but they couldn't sell you on the current year because you weren't going to buy it.
You're right.
Okay?
You're
so that's
right.
That's number
mean
one.
I didn't like it. It
I
doesn't
know.
mean that I liked it.
I didn't like it either, and trust me, it was painful to suffer through that. Okay, but we also have to remember this franchise had to rebuild just about every level of baseball: A, AA, AAA, and the major leagues. We're only focused on the major leagues, and that's all we should be focused on.
Right.
There was nothing down there. Okay, you're going out and getting Brandon frickin' Dixon. I want you to think about that for a second, okay? And he's the starter for you at first base. You finally get some talent. What you think is going to be talent in guys like Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson and Casey Mize and Matt Mann, and we want them right away, don't we?
Yeah.
They're not ready.
Yeah,
guys, they're not. They weren't ready then to go to be called up. I think they got called up too soon. With the lack of patience, and now, even though that team, you say they're kicking down the road, and you're saying that we're being sold a bill of goods. Guess what? You're the same guy who has told me, Steve Yzerman, be patient because it's going to happen.
100%.
Okay?
100%.
Well, I could have said the same thing about the Tigers 5-6 years ago. You have to be patient because they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing in their minor leagues that anybody wants. You're starting Dawel Lugo at third base. Ain't happening.
You know what I think the problem was, though, Shep? And I have no problem saying this name. I think you had the Emily Waldens of the world out there telling you how great these guys were doing in small sample sizes. And I would always say, Google is your friend. Google. You can look up these numbers yourself. Well, it's great that Rake Rogers went 4-6 over the weekend. Okay. He hasn't been good. Look at that. And I think that was the big difference because at least with Steve, in my mind, what Steve Yzerman is doing, and by the way, there's no guarantee, is you can see what these guys are doing, whether it be in Sweden, whether it be in junior. You can follow along and go, wow, this guy's having a good year. With so many of the guys that you mentioned, Shep, these guys were struggling. I mean, there's no other way to say it across the board. Willie with an I. I mean, we all know the names. I'm not going to sit there and say that. And I think that was part of the issue to me. Well, if we want to look at small sample sizes, most things look great. But I think when you took a deep dive, which I challenge everybody to do, man, do a little homework. It's not hard. And go look at like these stat lines across the board with Erie or these stat lines across the board with West Michigan. You were telling me to be excited about something that, quite frankly, there was no reason to be excited about at that point in time. And that frustrated people, I think. It frustrated me. It frustrated me.
Me too. I agree 100% with that. It's all about trust. You and I trust Steve Yzerman. We trust Brad Holmes. When Al Avila makes 2 trades that garners basically nothing from 2 of your best players and 2 of your franchise players in Verlander and JD Martinez, he doesn't garner the type of trust and the vision that many Tigers fans thinks he deserves. And that's where it comes from. On the other hand, now that you look at it and you see the guys who have made an impact, especially down this stretch, you do have to give him some credit for what he's been able to do.
Now, let's be honest, looking back at some of those teams, Nick Ramirez and Buck Farmer and some of those pieces from those years gone by would be full-fledged aces with the witchcraft that Feder and Hinch are doing right now. Let's be honest. We would rival the 14-15 Royals bullpen. Here comes Nick Ramirez. He hasn't given up a run in 78 innings.
He's the equivalent to Kelvin Herrera.
It's just the Mexicutioner. One of my favorite nicknames of all time. Hey, All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is the number one goal. So listen, don't sweat the details the next time you got yourself a party. Let All About Catering take care of you. They took care of me, did a few different parties for me. They can take care of you as well. It's really simple. Rick and his staff, great people. Go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and their 5-star reviews, or call 586-731-1398 to get your event started. Shep, here's an interesting question. Bill asked, does Skubal win the Cy Young via unanimous vote? He should, but you brought up a name that in any other year would, I think, probably make a strong argument for winning it all. And nobody's really paying attention, Shep.
Yeah.
Because we're all wrapped up. But honestly, you got to give a tip of the cap to that young man in Cleveland right now.
100%. I think he's got 34 consecutive saves, too. Mm-hmm. I'm laughing because Bill said, Buck Farmer is my hotel check-in alias. Oh, my God. That is so good.
That's a great line, dude.
That is so good. Go, yeah, there's going to be people in Cleveland who vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand why. I mean, I've seen there's a long history of relievers, whether it be Bruce Sutter or Raleigh Fingers or Willie Hernandez, who have won Cy Youngs. I just think it's overwhelming. You're going to have Chris Sale and you're going to have Tarik Skubal. Sale's 18-3, Skubal's 18-4. Their ERAs are 2.38, 2.39. The strikeouts are almost identical. The walks are almost identical. The hits are almost identical. They're going to both win it. I think they're going to win it rather comfortably, and rightfully so, because he has received a lot of buildup for, I would say, the last 2 months specifically, and he has not disappointed. And you can also say in his last 9 starts, he has 6-0 with a 1.9 ERA.
Fake.
Yeah, that's fake. Bob Gibson-esque. What I'd like to see, Sean, what I'd really like to see is the Tigers to put stuff out to voters and say, hey, listen, in case you missed it, because you're out in Texas and Los Angeles and Seattle and San Diego, in case you missed it, this is what our guy has done.
Right.
In other words, promote him. You're a Heisman Trophy voter. I used to be. How much stuff do you get from schools around the country? And you read it. I know you do. Yeah, it's insane. It doesn't necessarily always influence your opinion, but sometimes you'll come across something and go, oh, I didn't know that.
I have 100 pounds of Toby Gerhart pencils. If anybody ever needs a pencil, let me know. You can send your address along and I can send you listen, I'll give you 50 of them because I have 100 pounds of Toby Gerhart pencils. Okay?
Sean, they don't break. So that's the good thing.
No.
That's a beautiful thing. Can I just say one thing before we leave? We were just talking about college football. One of the more enjoyable articles I've read recently was about a kid by the name of Armorian Smith. Mm-hmm. He's from Michigan State. He's a defensive back. In case people don't know, look it up. Lost his mom last month to breast cancer. He now is in charge of basically being the father to his four siblings. All right. Here's a kid who is trying to balance football, a criminal justice major, being basically a dad to his siblings. He has no social life, right? Studying film, doing all those things. In a world of college athletics, and I'm guilty, by the way, Sean, in a world of college athletics where we're going to have a topic where we're going to complain and bitch and moan about guys like Bear Alexander, who's the USC defensive lineman, and has decided that he's going to redshirt or transfer because he's been demoted to the second team, even though he transferred from Georgia and USC allegedly gave him a penthouse apartment. Or we're going to talk about Matthew Sluka from UNLV, who's bitching and moaning that he didn't have the $100,000 that the offensive coordinator for the Running Rebels, hi Larry Johnson, promised him and didn't deliver. In a day and age where we're complaining about that, could those coaches or somebody close to these kids take them the story of what's going on in East Lansing right now with Armorian Smith and say, this is how grown up you sometimes have to be.
Yep.
And you think you got it bad. What's this kid doing? And the only comment he's made is like, look, I didn't pick my cards. This was the hand I've been dealt. How hard, how challenging must that be for a kid like that? So yeah, I just had to say that because it's a phenomenal story. I give him full marks. I root for him as much as any kid out there in college athletics that I'm going to root for. But those two other kids we're talking about, I know it's different circumstances, one financial, one playing time. Stop whining, get a damn Kleenex, buckle up, and learn to be appreciative instead of being such a candy ass.
Yep. Good call. Matt said Ron Mexico, Joaquim Soria, the Mexicutioner. Honestly, one of the greatest nicknames ever. Matt, we're spending money in the off season now, right? I have no reason to believe up to this point that Christopher Ilitch is going to do that. That doesn't mean that he won't. I want to make that crystal clear, okay? But none of us have a reason to believe that he's going to do that.
Well, listen, Jack Nicholson, because I know it's crystal clear. Let me ask you, do you know where they rank right now in spending money?
Is it 23rd?
26th.
26th. Okay.
26th.
I knew it was down the list.
Their payroll, pretty damn close. Their payroll is less than Colorado. It's less than Seattle. It's less than Cleveland. Okay. There are teams like Pittsburgh and Miami who spend less, right? And I think you and I both agree. You don't have to spend a lot of money to guarantee you're making the playoffs. Otherwise, Toronto would be there. The Mets would already be in, right? The Cubs would definitely be in, okay? But Detroit ranking 26th. It's how you spend it, where you spend it, and how long you're going to give, all right? Because they spent money on Javier Baez and you didn't like it. They spent money on Mark Canha. I didn't like it. Gio Urshela. I didn't like it. The free agent class that's out there is nothing special, folks. So spending money. I don't want him spending money just for the sake of spending money. If he's going to spend money to retain Riley Green, spend money to retain Tarik Skubal, help that bullpen or help that starting unit out a little bit. Yes, I said unit. Start that out a little bit with a Jack Flaherty-like signing. I'm all for it, right? But if you want these young guys to play, Jace Young, Trey Sweeney, Cole Keith, where are you going to spend your money is what my question would be to the texter.
Yep. Hey, listen, one thing before we get out of here, our friend Lindsay Broadwell, when it's time to get yourself a house, whether you're buying, selling, oftentimes both, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? That lady right there, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you will ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up here on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business. When it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when buying a new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Pay Kenta. Bill, you're on fire today. You got to listen. I know he's got another year left, but I don't want to take a chance at the end of next year that he's just going to walk away, okay? All right.
Trade chip, Sean. He could be a trade chip.
Shep, have a great weekend, buddy. We'll talk again Monday.
All right, could be.
Thank you guys as well. Todd, thank you. Everybody, enjoy this. Enjoy this ride. The Tigers are going to finish this the right way. We'll see you soon.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.